And that was so powerful for me. That was empowering. And I understood that, we have to speak up. We can't. Why are we scared to present ourselves as we are? We are strong women.
Welcome to the Pink Room, a space for real talk by real women about the real issues of our day. With your hosts, Shonda Robertson St. Louis, Dr. Trisha Pinnacook, Teresa Alvarez Diaz, and Norca Blackman Richards. With moderators Kayla Cato and Chantal Fulgencio.
And going further, not only the color pitting, but also the female pitting. All right?
Oof.
The female pitting. Women who are in competition with other women, black and brown women. Listen, cut it out. Cut it out.
Exactly.
It doesn't serve us well. It doesn't
It's the
serve us
distraction.
well.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. Go ahead.
No one ever talked about something that just tore my heart apart, because is this supposed to happen? Absolutely not. But I didn't have an outlet to talk about it. It scared me. It hurt me. Had no clue. And so what I'm experiencing today, based on all of these things, it almost put me right back into that same.
As a woman of color in the workplace, when you do not have a lot of people in your family who've been where you are, so you do not have people who can tell you this is the way to move forward. You don't know, you do not have the contacts, you do not have the family connection.
Start your watch parties. Cast the Pink Room on your HD TVs. Post your comments in the chat. This space is yours too.
Hi there. I'm excited to invite you and your girlfriends to our For Real Women International virtual walk track. Here's how it works. From July 26th to September 6th, you and your girlfriends will either walk, run, jog, treadmill, do aerobic exercise, and weekly report your steps. The teams with the highest number of steps win prizes. Teams from 2 to 10 can register for $50 towards our causes. Individual teams register for $20. You go to our website for Women International. That's www.rwi.org. Super excited. Hope you are too.
Good day, everyone. Welcome. And we want you to do us a favor. If you are watching the show live on Facebook or on YouTube, please tell us where you are joining us from. I see that someone is joining us from Costa Rica. Just tell us where you're joining us from. We also like to keep tabs of those who are with us, and we want to welcome you to today's Pink Room. I want to, however, take some time to dedicate this special Pink Room, the speech, to the women of For Real Women International Brooklyn and For Real Women International Queens, Long Island. These women were with us during a protest march a couple of weeks ago. And in their honor, and using the creative hands of Keymaids, who was Kezia Vargas Chisholm, who created the posters and created this beautiful video. And we would like you also to sponsor Kezia. She does awesome work. We're going to show you this video of the process of how she came about supporting us, and also some pictures of the For Real Women International Brooklyn and Queens, Long Island group as they participated in this protest in Brooklyn. We hope that you will be inspired by just seeing and being aware of what women can do.
Mother, mother, There's too many of you crying. Brother, brother, brother. There's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. Oh no. You see, war is not the answer. Only love can comprehend. Oh yes, you know we want to find a way. It's a picket line, sister. Picket sign, brother. Punish me, sister. Brutality, brother. Talk to me, sister. We can see what's going on. What's going on? Tell me what's going on. What's going on? 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 What's going on?
And we want to thank Kesia Vargas. Wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that beautiful? We want to really applaud Kesia for, honoring us with her gifts.
Very nice.
And for creating these beautiful posters that we were able to showcase during this protest. And her tagline is Key Made. She does work handicraft by hand. She does beautiful work. And we also want to, again, honor our Free Women International sisters in Brooklyn and in Queens, Long Island. So we have the hostesses with us today. We have Tricia, Shonda, and Lisa. Yeah.
Hey.
And we want to start today with heart check. Where are we today? So let's start with our heart check. Who wants to be first?
No one wants to be first.
So my heart check. I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Can you hear? Okay, I'll go first. My heart check. I'm good. When your mind and your heart is in a good place, you can only be good, right? And so in doing that, what adds to it is to see that the great Oprah Winfrey, who's had a magazine out for over 20 years, has decided to put the photo of Breonna Taylor on to represent an opportunity for this issue to not die. She basically said, look, whatever, and who greater than Oprah, who's always had herself on her magazines, to now that cover is graced by the beautiful Breonna Taylor to honor not only her life, but to also speak and add volume to the silence that's taking place in reference to the charges that are not happening. That's a part of what my heart check is, and I'm looking forward to continuing to thrive on this moment.
Thank you. That's a great heart check. That's great news. Thank you for that.
So I thought about this, what to say in this part of our pink room, and I went through a lot of different places. And I guess I decided to focus on this. Michelle Obama this week had her first podcast, and she has decided that she is going to use her voice and her platform to communicate. And at a time when there are so many people who really wish she would have, for lack of a better term, stepped up and accepted to run for vice president or even run for president. And when so many of us believe she would have done an outstanding job, she decided that she was going to be the one to decide what her platform would be used for and what her next stage in life would be. And I have so much respect for that, because as women, we sometimes tend to do what is asked of us.
Right.
Even, especially when we are in a position where we can help somebody. And our impulse can be to do what is asked of us over and above what we believe we should be doing. So for her to say, no, this is not what I'm going to do. This is not what I want to do. This is how I want to use my voice and use my platform. Made me feel as a woman so empowered. For me, that's even more powerful than being the vice president of the United States of America.
There you go.
Being able to say, this is my past. This is my past. And this is what I'm going to do with it. So at a time when there seems to be so much going against being a woman and being a woman of color and being in, all the different descriptors we've used, to see somebody say, no, this is me. This is how I feel comfortable. Right. And come out on a shot in shorts in front of a mic instead of standing on a platform. Kudos to her. And that made my heart happy this week.
Awesome. All
right.
Well, my heart has been, I think pumping and just trying to kind of catch up, because I think the buzzword right now is misinformation. And one of the topics that just took most of my week up was really trying to relay to people that I know, people that I have a connection to, the value of doing research. This week, there's been quite a few videos running around the internet, some of them unfortunately with just a vast amount of misinformation. And one of the things that I like to point out is this. I think that the First Amendment is one of the most valuable things that we have, that this country and the Constitution offers us. And everybody has the right to speak their mind. Everybody. Yes, even people who we disagree with. And I am one, to stand by that. I think that it's worth defending, that anybody can speak their mind. However, with that said, I want you to think about the importance, and I'm not only I think that just the overwhelming need right now for you to do your research before you take others' opinions as fact, and not only their opinions, but don't let people tell you what you're going to think. You decide for yourself. And during this week, there was a video that was circulating where doctors were speaking out of what they believe would be appropriate treatments for COVID-19. And I think, kudos to them for speaking out. I don't think there's anything wrong with people taking a platform, and if it's what they believe in, okay. I think that, everybody decides whether to listen or not. However, what I find interesting is the fact that, the media outlet that was promoting this is an alt-right neo-Nazi news, media platform, and the way they were using, especially focusing on an African physician who happened to be speaking out in favor of alternative treatments for COVID. And, this video, and it was a video of her, just her, like there was all these other physicians there that were white physicians, and many of them male, But the clip of her was pulled out and then, sent out. I mean, I got it multiple times from friends, and many of my friends who, I think that they probably saw a woman of color speaking out, and and they thought it would be something that, people needed to listen to, which is not, I don't think there's anything wrong with people speaking out and saying what they, what they believe is their truth. However, the way that this video was used is definitely, it's to politicize this issue. And I just, my point, and I hope that we all take the time to be critical thinkers, to do our research. Don't let other people's opinion, don't get, just pulled into the drama of everything that comes our way. Take the time to analyze it. Where is it coming from? Follow the money. You're going to know who's behind that information. So that's been my week, just kind of like my brain's been, on full alert, trying to make sure that everything that comes my way, I analyze it critically.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Teresa. I think that my week had its highs and lows. But one of the highlights of my week, believe it or not, was watching the funeral of John Lewis.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why this was a highlight for me is that John Lewis is not only an American icon, he is a global icon, right? What this man did consistently, I know people talk about the bridge, but beyond the bridge, he sat at counters, he sat in buses where he was not supposed to be sitting. He did all of this knowing that he was going to be beat up and attacked, and did it anyway to prove the point that he, as a Black man in America, had the right to be in public spaces. He had the right to also vote, right? And his funeral, while bittersweet, we have lost an icon, it really filled me with responsibility.
Yes.
Because he has left the baton to us, right? Yes. We have to now carry on with the legacy that he has left. The testimonies of those who knew him were just warming, beautiful, really a testament to the man that we knew publicly. It was really good to know that this was the same person privately, right? So that to me was sort of like a highlight, because I came away feeling there is a responsibility that we all now must take. So before we go into our second part for the day, I want to acknowledge those women. I see women from Tierras del Caribe Sur de Costa Rica. That's Laura Elena, Fiona from Philadelphia, Arlene from Chicago. Arlene has become a regular. Thank you, Arlene. Yeah. Appreciate it. Brenda Jones from Colorado, Gina Parchment, shout out from Houston, Damaris, Tampa, Florida, Hollis, Queens, New York. We just want to thank all of you beautiful women who are out there. We ask you that you start watch parties, right? Start watch parties on your pages, so that we can extend this conversation. We see Latoya, who was here previously about 2 weeks ago. And yes, this is Latoya's comment. We must be good trouble. Good trouble. Latoya, we must be good trouble. Yeah, that is the legacy that John Lewis has left for us. So today we want to draw context as we begin to discuss this topic about the speech that was given by Alexandra Ocasio Cortez. But there's so much around that speech that we need to really break down and look at. We want to let you know that as women who have experienced misogyny, sexism, the patriarchy, this is going to hit home. And we are going to be passionate about this topic. And we invite you to join us with the comments. These are not angry Black or brown women. These are just women who are passionate, who have lived life either editing ourselves or trying to fit within a mold that we have quickly realized is the wrong mold. So we want today, as we begin our discussion, that you bear in mind that we're speaking from the heart, but we're also speaking from our souls. And as we've said in our very first Pink talk, we said we cannot keep silent. Enough is enough. So we're going to start first talking about misogyny. We're going to start first talking about misogyny. And as our colleagues share, they're going to share personal examples of how misogyny was present or has been present in their lives. So I think that's Theresa.
Yes, yes. And, I think one of the most important things to keep in mind when we use the word misogyny is that it's the actual behavior, okay? It is behavior that is manifested. It's words that are spoken. It is, actions that are taken. So it's really, really important that we have that context, understanding that this is the behavior that we actually see manifesting itself. And, it's incredibly, I think just heart-wrenching that we see this even today. Here we are in the 21st century, and you have shows that you sit down and watch on TV, songs that you listen to on the radio that continually just, reaffirm these types of behaviors against women, this hatred against women. And, I was listening to this young woman speak on this TED Talk, and one of the things that stood out to me was just so incredibly powerful. And she said, our culture devalues femininity. Anything that has, this air of being feminine will be devalued by our culture. And that's not just the US, and we're talking about across the board. The majority of the nations, in this world have these toxic cultures. And, I was speaking to my colleagues here, my co-hosts, and we were talking about these, behaviors. And a lot of times we think about, when I used to think that misogyny was a word that I could use to describe a male that hated women, right? And that's like the farthest from the truth. One of the biggest misogynists, or the biggest, or the most, hurtful misogynist that I've ever known in my life was my paternal grandmother. When, when I was born, she told my father that she didn't have to marry my mother because I was a girl and I wasn't going to carry on the family name. So, it wouldn't be a problem if he didn't want to get married with my mother. He didn't have to, so, and he in fact didn't, he abandoned us. I never met my father. It's so sad that, a lot of this hatred towards women comes from women. And it is my clear understanding. And it is 100% what I believe. And I know that if, as women, as mothers, we educate our young men, our children, our boys to value women and to give them the respect that they also expect to receive, then we will see a different world. It is women who need to stop being misogynistic, to stop being misogynist, yes, and to really embrace our femininity and understand that it is a good thing to be a woman. It is wonderful to be a woman. And I believe that the more we embrace that and we can pass that on to the generations of young men that are coming up, that we are cradling, that we are breastfeeding, that we are bottle feeding, that we are rearing, these men will understand the value of women. So that's my take on misogyny.
So it is my turn to speak on sexism. And in short, it is being discriminated against because of your gender. That usually happens more in women and girls, not as much as men. And it is manifested in things as even roles in society. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I chose to study medicine in the mid 80s is when I started school, 1986, 87 actually. And it wasn't really clear as I was in school that this was a profession that was clearly seen as more for men than for women. I grew up in a home where both my parents said I could be anything I wanted to be. And they encouraged that and they affirmed that. It was not something they said, but something they didn't act like. They were congruent in the way they raised me that way. So when I decided I was going to study medicine, they were all for it. I had to move to another country. I was 16. They supported me all the way. And all through school, it wasn't really an issue, except for the fact that I didn't have a lot of female teachers. So when everybody I saw standing in front of me in the classroom was a male, and it didn't happen until my 4th year in medical school that we had the ophthalmology class and we had a female physician as our teacher. Listen, she was probably still as gorgeous, beautiful, long fingernails, slim, would come with pencil skirts and heels to teach. All the boys in the class were nuts. All the women in the class looked up to her because it was the first time that we saw that you could actually be a woman and be a doctor, and that you didn't have to wear like just square clothes and not have any beauty and not have anything that signaled that you were a woman, like nails. It was like a breath of fresh air. But when we started to go into our clinical rotations and then our internship, it was very clear that the way the education in medicine was set up back then, not so much today, but very evident back then, it was set up for men. So if you were on call the day after, the men on my call would get visits from their wives with a clean lab coat, a cup of coffee, a glass of orange juice, How was your call, my dear? Are you too tired? And those of us who were women are like, yeah, no one was coming to say anything to us. And that can seem like not too important, but when you get to opportunities and the opportunity, for example, to do surgeries on your own, men got those, women didn't get those. When if you are a woman, you were immediately seen as not part of the medical team. And there's nothing wrong with being a nurse if that's who you plan to be and what you studied for. But when you go in the room as the physician and the patient says, where's the doctor? Because he's a woman, they see a woman, and that's male and female patients. Then it was very clear that the way this profession was looked at was from the point of view of it was a male profession. And frankly, many decisions I made in my life in regards to how I was going to practice my profession were mainly because as a woman, I knew that the opportunities were going to be different and the kind of life I wanted to lead as a woman would not be the same in the profession I had chosen. So that's my take on a real example of what sexism can do.
And now that's me. And reference to patriarchy. So patriarchy is created in society. I'm going to put a little spin on it, the notion that they have power, but to be in positions of power that are primarily in positions such as politics, a lot of leadership, a lot of structures that help our societies function. And because they're in these particular positions, there is this false notion that continues to be perpetuated even in our homes and just passed down from generation through generation that they are those of power. And since it's seen that way, they're seen as the ones who are supposed to be the privileged. So I've had multiple experiences where patriarchy existed, and it was affected by, I was affected by it. There was one not too long ago and during COVID, and I tell you, COVID has allowed a lot to be revealed where I was participating in a religious institution event, and I had a leader of the church basically try to chop me up by saying that something that I said in relation to how um, gender roles within churches are continue time and time again. And he basically in extremely bitter tones was basically, I'm tired of hearing these things. Here you are supposed to be a leader of the church, you're tired of hearing these things, and you're supposed to represent all. So that was one particular instance. But then also I love to engage in a lot of physical events and activities, and I was in an environment when I wanted to learn something new. And I had the male leader who was teaching me, he just turned to me, he says, no, this is just not for women. And I'm sorry that he thought that way, really for him. Not sorry for myself, because I found the gentleman who was standing right next to me, and he turned to me and he said, Shonda, I'll show you. And he took the time to show me something that's very powerful that I had the chance to continue to use as I engage in, a lot of the physical activities, the walks, etc. that I enjoy. So patriarchy is strong. You can almost smell it in the air. You can almost taste it, and um, it's something that's worthy of a discussion, especially today. So thanks for joining us.
So we want to go in directly, and I want to thank my colleagues for sharing with us. We want to go into the speech. Alexandra Ocasio Cortez gave a riveting, powerful speech um, in the halls of the U.S. representatives, kind of challenging, or not kind of, definitely challenging male incivility. So let's go with our takeaways. What can we take away from her speech? Let's start there.
I think one of the takeaways that I can share with you is definitely uh, her ability to demonstrate that this is not a problem that has ever just been, on the streets. It is not a problem that's in bars. I mean, this is a problem at all levels of society. And I think she masterfully was able to demonstrate that, how it's not a problem that, it's a problem over there. No, it's a problem absolutely everywhere. This has permeated every level of our existence. And I think that it was just blasting that into society. And I think that it should definitely have woken all of us up, because really, when you think of our representatives, when you think of people who are given the privilege to speak for us, that they're our voice, and they are using it to do this type of demeaning of other human beings, it should be embarrassing. We should be embarrassed on who we are voting into those positions, and we should really think about the fact that if the government is not a representation of who we are as a nation, then we, and it's not showing values that we say we have. I think, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I took, but I'm gonna let my co-host say something. I just believe that one of the things that was just mind blowing is the fact that this is at every single level. And of course, look, if the man at the top can grab women, by her genitals, and he can boast about it, then hey, what is the guy at the bar supposed to do, right? But follow suit. I'll be quiet now.
Well, one of the things that caught my attention when she spoke that day is that she said she wasn't going to. And I think that we have lived that forever. The idea that when somebody says something that is unbecoming, that is disrespectful for a quiet life, you let it pass. And the only reason she did was because he didn't back down and then went and did the fake apology. And then her sisters said, you need to say something. And I just want to, in this part of the conversation, say how important it is for us as sisters to come together and support each other. If it hadn't been for her sister saying, you should speak up, she might not have. And then we would have had someone in that position feel entitled, empowered, and justified to cuss out a colleague in front of the whole world. Because when you do it in front of the press, you do it in front of the whole world.
Exactly.
And he felt that he could do that and it wouldn't be a problem. And it wasn't until her sister said, no, you need to say something, that she felt empowered to do it. And I think that it is so important that we do this, that when we see someone going through something in distress, we need to come together and support. We need to say something. We need to say, we're with you. We need to say, if you do this, I'm going to back you up. And then as soon as she finished speaking, another woman came up after her and thanked her for speaking up. We need to do this. We can't expect other people because it hasn't happened. So the fact that sisters came together and supported her, that really was something that I took away from this. And then I might say something else that I found interesting a little bit later.
Yeah. Shonda, you want to come in on that?
So I want to say, sure. Trisha, you said she was a master. I like to say she's a grandmaster of comeback. One of the insights that I really did gain was how this will go down in history, or his story, but it also becomes a part of our story, and it definitely represents her story. So way to go, AOC, to speak it into existence about the behaviors that we know have long perpetuated the walls of our political systems, which people tie into this whole. Her speech should be required of all history classes because it does represent a comeback in terms of all these ills perpetuated against women constantly. And it needs to end. We know it can end, and it will end. And if she's going to be the one who remains in those walls of Washington, D.C.'s political engine to keep this discussion going, then, like Trisha said, I have her back. So thank you, AOC. It was powerful. It's now part of Washington's history, and so it'll be our responsibility to verbally continue to.
Absolutely, Shonda, that's such a great point, that it is now part of the history of this nation, that speech. All right. I think that the way she couched the idea that male incivility is a culture, and it prompted me to write, because I think we're looking at three pandemics. We're looking at racism, we're looking at the health pandemic, but male incivility is also a pandemic that has plagued us for many generations and for centuries.
Beginning of time.
From the beginning of time. And the reason why it has plagued us is because, again, we have interpreted patriarchy as the law. As Sonia Smith said something very interesting here. She said that the senator actually felt entitled to say what he said, which is true.
Yes.
Any type of supremacist stand, white supremacy, male supremacy, there's always this feeling that I am entitled to put you in your place.
Yeah.
Right? That is at the core of that. That is at the core of that. And we need to recognize it as such. And we're going to go on and talk about some other things. But we need to recognize these things for what they are. They're really dehumanizing, right? They're trying to put you down, make you smaller so that you realize that I am better than you. And absolutely that is unacceptable. Arlene said, united we stand, divided we fall. Absolutely, Arlene. I'm a big believer in that. If as women we don't stand together, we cannot expect much from others. So we back
exactly.
And maybe to that point, Norca, something she said was that when that senator said what he said, there was one standing right beside him.
Wow.
Right. And she
didn't
called
say a word.
Too.
She called him out.
Called him out.
But the reason I'm bringing this is to tag along what you just said and what Teresa said earlier. And that is that the one that stood by him, was united with him. Did not stop him. Didn't stop him. Didn't say, no, this is wrong. That is not just, that's not just words. Those are violent words.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
right. And I think we need to spend a little bit of time on language.
Right.
Those words were powerfully violent words. And when people say, what's the big deal? When you hear people cussing all the time, it may feel like that's nothing and you should get used to it. There's certain language you should never allow yourself to get used to.
Right.
Exactly.
There should never be a day when you allow someone to call you a witch with a bean.
Right.
And you're okay with it. Never. Be it a girlfriend, be it a boyfriend, be it a parent, be it a boss, be it someone that's casually on the street. It should never feel okay.
That's right.
That you're going to put on that word as a describer of who you are.
You see, this is Tricia, and I'm glad you're bringing this up, the whole issue about language, right? Yeah. This is where the normalization is the breaking down of women.
Yes.
Because now you have women calling each other the B word. You have them singing it in songs as if it's okay. As you said, start to then feel that it's this dehumanizing role, this less than, this inferior role. And then you ask what's wrong with it. You start to accept that into your spirit. You're going through life diminished. Your choices in relationships, your choices in life are going to be choices that are toxic and against your humanity because you have accepted this descriptor of yourself.
Exactly.
You should not be using it for other women, and you should not be using it. Listen, there's music that I do not listen to and will never listen to. I don't care who sings it. As soon as I hear N or B, I am out. I don't want it around me. I don't want to hear it nowhere close to me. I've been in Ubers and I'm like, listen, you need to take that down right now. But why? I'm like, you need to take it down or you're going to stop at the corner and drop me off because I am not going to sit here. No, but it's not about you. Yes, it is. I'm a woman.
Yes. This is called low frequency vocabulary. And I have this with my kids. I'm like, low frequency vocabulary is going to mess your brain. Understand that. And somewhere I read that psychologists had, did a study where the sweetest thing that a human being can listen to or hear is their name, like your name. When I say Norca, when I say Trisha, when I say Shonda, and when somebody calls you something else, something that is not high frequency, I'm not talking about, hey, love or sweetheart. No, I'm talking about if somebody calls you something that's low frequency, that affects your psyche and it will eventually affect your health. And, I would tell my students, because they would call it in Spanish, there's this very, unfortunately, some limited intelligence, in celebrities, they started to popularize this word way. You might have heard it. Yeah. And, and people call each other that consistently. And, I would tell my students, your parents spent about at least 9 months, if they knew you were coming, picking out a name for you, for somebody to come and just and speak to you in a degrading way, you know. And I think that we have to be very firm and have a very set boundary on how we want people to address us. When my husband and I were dating, I said, look, in Spanish, again, I'm going to my roots. We have this that you call people, like when you're married, you call them like vieja or viejo.
No.
Right? And I told him, I said, I will not go below my queen, my love, my life, my everything. Okay, that is the bar. You will not go below that, right? And I think it's important that we set boundaries.
I love it.
Yeah, we set boundaries because, and I extend that same level of respect and dignity to this human being that it's the one I share my life with. Right. So I think that we have to be very intentional about the boundaries that we set for how people address us.
Yeah.
And that is why I am just like, I can't stop clapping, and I have a standing ovation for this woman for letting the world know you will not speak to me that way.
Yeah.
That's right. And remember, she's marking the president because she said those little girls that she goes home to at night. We have to see ourselves in larger scales.
Yeah.
It's not just about me. It's about those women that are looking on. It's about those little girls, it's those students, those neighbors, those that are looking on. I just want to read quickly before you guys, before the co-hostesses comment. Glenda said words are very powerful. Once it left your lips, it cannot be taken back.
That's right.
Eileen said truth. Never allow yourself to accept disrespectful behavior as normal, right? Bernadette said something here that I love. My spirit rejects dehumanizing language. Ooh, we need to take that in. My spirit rejects dehumanizing language. Wow. Love it, Bernadette, right?
Put it on a t-shirt, Bernadette.
Yes, sell it.
Draw a line and respect yourself enough to reject what is not correct. And then Brenda said, when have we dropped the ball? Queen Latifah wrote a song called Unity, which called out people for disrespectful language, and it stated, I'm not a bee or a hoe. That was 30 years ago. Yes, Brenda. And today we're still having the conversation. There is a problem, women. There is a problem. Yes. So before we move into the next phase, anyone wanted to say anything? Shonda, I know you didn't get to jump in. I don't know if you want to jump in now.
What Sonia, one of the viewers, Sonia, actually said, he felt entitled, and so that's why he used the language that he felt he had every right to use, especially against a woman of color. Period.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a male here saying that words linger and are replayed in the mind. That is so true. Words stay with us. And Latoya said something here. It also comes from home. When children are called out of their names and spouses call each other what Teresa was pointing.
But think about it this way. Think about how you felt when your mom used your 4 names. You knew what that meant. You knew what that meant. There were my nickname at home. My nickname is Tiri, and there's a story behind it. When they were trying to choose my name, the most beautiful Native American that Balboa found, her name was Anayansi. And that is what they wanted to call me. But my family has the custom of cutting names. So they said, she's going to end up being Anna, so no. So in that time, someone here in the US, their daughter was named Trisha. And that wasn't common back then. So that's how I became Tricia Yancy. My nickname is Tri. They cut it anyway. So it got cut anyway. My nickname is Tri. But I grew up knowing exactly what my name meant.
Girl.
And how the process that they went through.
Right.
To choose the name I have. And I went through the same process to choose my son's names. And I say exactly what You have a name, even with each other. I don't allow nicknames. You have a name, use the person's name. And I think that we know how we feel when somebody says your name in the accent and the tone that it was meant to be said.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So when someone calls me Tricia, I feel differently than when someone calls me Trisha.
Right.
Because I know how it was intended.
Right.
And I think that it's so important that what Latoya said and others have mentioned in the home, that children understand the importance of their name. Mm-hmm. Yes. You know those cultures where they don't name you until you're, you know, a little bit older.
The Jewish culture, right? Isn't it Jewish culture like that? Yeah.
To make sure that your name actually fits your personality.
Right.
And in others, it's like aspirational. No one is going to, you know, that when no one's name is Judas. Right. You know, like, you know, there's certain things that you don't call your kids. That's how important language is.
And I'm thinking about native culture where the father would go out of the tent and the first thing in nature that spoke to him, that's the name he gave the child, right? So,
So to connect that with something else she said, my parents did not raise me to accept being abused by men.
Absolutely.
And this goes right back to what we're saying. We need to do it in the home. We need to do it in the home.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely.
And Tricia, I'm gonna say it the way it should sound. You know, Tricia, right now what you just said right now is so powerful, and I want you to know that I know why I'm even more connected to you, because those are the same words that I relate to my children. You know, this is your name. It was chosen. This is who you are. You know, and don't let anybody, you know, call you anything other than what you are meant to be called, right? And you know, because it's like, hey, you know, this you are valuable. And I think that names are just word. The word is just it speaks. You know, I remember listening to Dr. Richards in Costa Rica, and I think I've said this to you, Norca, before, when he shared that he was talking about words in this one talk, and I mean it's like it's penetrated my brain. He talked about this book. I came home and I bought that book and I read it. You know, words can change your mind, you know, your brain. And, you know, I'm even more convinced of the value of making sure that what I speak is of value and speaks life. I mean, I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, you know, I always do that, but I am definitely more intentional about how my voice and my words come across to people. And I'm really, you know, and I think that we just need to make sure that our next generations are feeling that responsibility to pass on the value of the word and speaking life into our children. You know, into every child that comes around you, into every young woman that comes around you, into every young man that comes around you, that you make sure that you're speaking life into them so they know what they're supposed to do.
You know, I say something briefly.
Go ahead.
But you know what? She.
Go ahead, Shonda. I'll go next. Go ahead.
She. Okay, thanks, Tricia. Almost. she actually. She said to him, and we know he probably would not listen and did not listen, but he said, by calling me that name, you are allowing your daughter,
absolutely,
your wife, your mother, you're allowing them the exact same, you know, name calling to take place on them. You allow them to have that same name placed upon them. So words and language, powerful, but he feels he's privileged enough to do it and probably sees his family in that same sense. I mean, seriously, if he's comfortable enough to say it about her. So, yeah.
Right.
But he doesn't necessarily equate it with his family because she's the other.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's a father. You know, that doesn't say a thing.
I think her statement on decency was so powerful. I put it on my social media. I said, it just because you have a daughter or because you have a wife does not make you decent.
That's right.
You know, decency is like how you treat other human beings, treat them with respect. Yeah. And I think that's where we carry around these titles, especially because, you know, he does represent as you know, he was voted because of his values, right? Because he has Christian values. And I remember somebody who said in the Bible that if you say raka, right, if you say stupid, idiot to your brother, that it's like you're killing them. So he is definitely not following the standards that he supposedly is representing as a Christian. If he belongs to that
tradition,
to that tradition, which I believe he does. And it's unfortunate. And and look, I point fingers, right? I mean, I could say, oh, he's not representing. I know that and I'm gonna just be straight at it. I've done things like that where I have not represented my belief system at one point, because I made mistakes as human. And I think that it's what she said was so powerful. When she said, we make mistakes, she admitted the possibility that he could have just been raptured by anger and suddenly just lashed out. However, she said, the problem is not that you make mistakes. It's not accepting, and not understanding that as a human being, as a man or a woman, you can make mistakes. And if you recognize those mistakes and then build on that lesson and say, I can be better than this. Right. I can, if he would have taken that opportunity and said, you know what, I was out of line. Right. I was disrespectful to this colleague of mine, and I will not happen again. And I apologize to my wife and to my daughters for not considering the fact that this affects them as women, because it does. It affects all of us. Right. When he offended and berated this politician, he did it to all the women. Absolutely. So not only the women that she represents in her district, but to
every one of us.
Every one of us.
If he did it to her in her position, trust me, he's going to do it to us at any minute.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, with his hand on his hip. And so I think that, So the most important, my father-in-law says that all the time, so I just had to say it. Okay. He's like, with the hand on the hip, right? Okay. The fact is that, as human beings, we will make mistakes. And so we're not pointing fingers at him for having made and for having really royally messed up. Because he royally, to the nth degree. Right. However, I think what a powerful statement he would have made to, the entire world, to all the men that, especially to all the men that side with his, worldview of what it is to really be a Christian. It's about repentance and looking for to become a better human being.
But you know what it is, Teresa? That was not the intent. And sadly, we have to accept that. And it's part of not only male supremacy, but it's also part of white supremacy. And here's an example that I'm going to give before we move on. I teach in a college it's in Flushing, and there are a lot of Asian students. I make it a point to say to them, tell me how it is that I need to pronounce your name. By the end of the semester, I promise you, I'll say your name. And sometimes you're like, no, call me Joe. I'm like, that was the name that you were born with? No, that's my American name. I said, no, that's not your name.
Exactly.
What is your name? Oh, we have made people to believe, right? We have created this thing with names and with just their sheer presence that they're defective. Right? That's basically what it is. He's trying to say to her that because of her policies, she's not even a woman. She's defected, right? So he had to react in this way. So Latoya said this, which I thought was very important. She said, it is important to note that she also sent a call to all women to step up.
That's why we're here.
On their platforms.
That's why we're here today.
Out those vile voices.
We're answering the call. We're answering the call. That's why we're here.
It doesn't matter what political stance you have. You're a woman. And as a woman, you should not condone this type of behavior.
Especially if you call yourself, let me say this, because, there's like over, I don't know how many millions of people who label themselves as Christians, Okay. If that is a label that you have taken on, you better be, I mean, seriously, you know, I would tell my students, they're like, oh, you know, I'm this, right? You know, like I this is my belief. I'm like, do you go to church regularly? No, but this is my belief. Don't give the other people a bad name. You know, if you're not representing, right? If you don't represent them, please, you know, don't smear the rest of us. You know, I mean, really, right? I mean, and if you ever mess up and you smear us, then you know what? Have the decency to say, I really messed up. You know, I humbly recognize that I was wrong.
Right.
That I shouldn't have spoken like that. That I shouldn't have said that. And you know, I hope that I can, you know, can be forgiven for having offended, and because it was offensive. And even though she's a human being who has experienced this same type of behavior, unfortunately, you know, and you know, and I think the most shocking thing for her was not experiencing this again, as she said. It's the fact that she wasn't ready for that where she was standing. And I think that you know, that she knows how to deal with that outside, but in a place.
Right.
And I think that, you know, Norca, when we were talking about patriarchy, and I think Shonda was the one mentioning it, you know, we can, as women, I think that there's a lot of things that we expect outside of our communities of faith. But when you're in a community of faith where you're supposed to be, you know, in a place where you are valued and protected and recognized, and that doesn't happen,
right?
Then there's something wrong. And there's obviously the communication of what the actual belief system is to what actually is happening in those communities of faith is disconnected.
We're going to go to the communities of faith. We're going to jump up. But I want us to also
hold back.
I want us to disabuse ourselves of the notion that this man, maybe even now, he doesn't think that he did anything wrong.
Oh yeah, no. That's evident.
I would like us as women to accept the fact that just like racism, male incivility for some men, that's how life is. Yeah. That's how it is. You know,
that's their skin.
Right. That you know, she made a big deal out of it. So we need to accept the fact that in this struggle, to make sure that we are respected, that there will be those men, even females, who are like, "What's the big deal?" That should never throw cold water on you. You need to continue to march forward. But that takes us to our second topic, right? And it's sexism and the culture of male incivility. And I saw a comment here from one man that I'm going to read, which I think is important to what we're talking about here. It says, in the fight for the obliteration of objectifying and disrespecting women, society needs more men to join this fight. In doing so, we must call it out when we see it. If men don't join this fight, the issue will never end. What are your thoughts? Whoa.
Oh,
so
look,
I'm
as a teacher
about that, because if they don't join, it will never end. So what do we? Okay, let me hear your thoughts.
I have taken numerous workshops and trainings on, you know, anti-bullying, right? You know, how to teach our students how to stop bullying, how to prevent it, blah, 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 how to deal with it. The only thing, after years of study, the only thing that stops bullying is the bystander speaking up. So if that other congressman said something, that is the only way bullying stops. Abuse doesn't stop until somebody says something. We have to speak out as bystanders. You know, if you're seeing it happen, and if you're being quiet, you are just being part of this.
Complicit.
You know,
right.
Teresa, but that's why,
Teresa, go ahead, Shonda.
Teresa, but that's why his partner in crime, because he should be on the floor also giving an apology. He did not speak out because he is exactly a part of it. And if you, the issue here is, if you don't see it as a problem or an issue,
there we go.
You're not going to address it ever, as long as you're in the river of denial, actually.
Exactly.
But if as long as you're in that river of denial, that's flowing to nowhere, you will not ever acknowledge
Never.
that there's this issue that's going on.
Right.
So yes, we do want men to join us who have a heart and who do realize that all human beings should be
Oh, we
created
need
equal. But
them.
when those who have continued to feel that this is the golden rule of thus saith the world, whomever, that's where our challenge is. And let alone, how again we know
I don't know if
Right. I think
this is gonna.
Shonda's internet is having a little bit of a connectivity issue.
Yeah.
But
I think what
very
Shonda
good
said
point.
is really, really, really
Yeah.
important that we just emphasize in this. It's this. At least this is my belief. This is what I think, that we need men as Lorna was
Allies.
saying. We need men. We need
Allies.
men. We need men. We will not be able to make a change in the way culture treats women unless we are flanked by men who understand that they are a part of the solution. I think they're not the only ones who need to see the world the way we women, not that they have to see the world as we do, but that they see our value as women in society. But I believe that the more we as women see our value in society, we will also gain traction. And I think that's where the way we educate the men that are coming up the ranks is definitely going to be part of the strategy. We as women, we cannot coddle our men and make them feel like they are the like. I hope I don't ruffle any feathers. I have two boys, and they wash dishes. They know their responsibilities.
Absolutely.
There's nothing. Yeah, well, maybe mom cooks. That doesn't mean that it's like because it's the expectation. It's because
Right.
I probably have had more experience doing it, and that's just what I do. But everybody has a responsibility
Right.
in society. We all have to share in with the responsibility, and the more men learn that, I think that the easier it will be on women in regards to how we are accepted, in all levels, all the way up to the congressional houses. I mean, to Congress, and even to the presidency. And unfortunately, the U.S. being one of the most advanced countries in the world, right, quote unquote, advanced politically or advanced socially, we like to think of ourselves. I mean, we can't even handle the idea of having a woman president. I mean,
So before you go to that idea, right? Before you go to that idea, Teresa, I want us to go back to that idea of allyship, right? Because even in the whole race pandemic, we have seen that the allyship of white men, women, children have totally exploded this, right? This is not the 50s and the 60s where only Black people with a few white and Jewish rabbis and Catholic priests were marching. This is everybody and their mama trying to get in on this is wrong, right? The same thing happens with women. We need the allyship of men. But then you point out something very important. It starts at home. The way we train our sons, the way we allow and the boundaries we have with our husbands, that will help to constitute allyship. Now, you may have some pig-headed husband that is just not, I am the man of the house and I am da 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 da. That happens, right?
You have to thank your mother-in-law for that one, though. I'm just kidding.
Go right ahead. No, Teresa.
But you know what?
That's a very good point. These
No,
men
yeah.
are raised by moms.
But
Look,
you know what,
yes.
Monica? There are some deep-seated cultural, hundreds of years rearing of families that go beyond our platform, that I think it's important. I studied medicine and public health in Mexico, and I did my social service year, which is a year you give back to the government in a rural area, 450 families living in a certain place. And my goal that year, what I was tasked to do, was to give preventive care to all the families. So the way I did it was going in people's houses. So I would walk in twice a week and go and sit in everybody's home. And I gained like 20 pounds that year because you can't say no when somebody offers you.
Right.
And they knew I was vegetarian. So then they were trying to come up with, what to give me. So I would eat egg in every house and everything would be fried. And what do? You can't connect with the community by saying, no, thank you. I don't like what you're
Correct.
saying.
Right.
But
Correct.
what I could tell you right now, two very distinct, 3, I could spend a whole hour just talking about very specific examples of what it means to grow in a culture where women are there for the service of men, no matter what age. And it's not seen as something wrong.
Yeah.
And if the mama doesn't train the daughter to serve her husband, she will be left. She will get left. She will no longer have one. Okay. So I remember a specific day I was invited to eat, and the order is the husband ate first, then the children, and whatever they left, the mom took her plate and filled her plate of the remains of everybody else in the house.
Yeah.
And because I was a guest, I could sit with the man on the table.
Yeah.
So he was sitting at the head of the table. The stove and the wife was in between.
Was she making those tortillas and throwing them in his plate warm?
The tortillas.
Yes, she was throwing them warm as they're hot. No. They're in her hand, no? Okay.
In his hand. So he would finish eating with the tortilla. He would do like this.
Yep.
She would put the hot tortilla in his hand. Yep. He'd roll it and keep eating. But this
she had to be ready, right?
No, she had to keep it warm.
Yeah.
There she couldn't move. And she couldn't attend to anybody else while he was eating.
Mercy.
So this is the reason why I'm telling this story. In this particular day, you know how they say you swallow and it goes down the wrong tube?
Yes.
So he choked on whatever that bite was.
What?
He had his glass in front of him and he was choking. And he would not pick up the glass because it was her role to give him the glass.
Wow.
Listen, I was young, unmarried.
So what did she do?
I was young, unmarried, very independent. I sat and looked at him, and I looked at her, and I was like, if it was me, you would have choked. There is no, you can't grab your own glass. But it goes in everything from not knowing when your period is, not having any control about how many children you have,
right?
The birth control method you use. It's not just words. And I think that's where I want us to bring this conversation. Maybe in this culture, it's words. But
no.
That attitude, that mindset kills women.
So
that mindset literally kills women, makes little girls be married to men that are 40 years older than them,
right?
And be pregnant by 12 and die,
right?
That mindset.
So this is where, when we talk about a culture of incivilities, not only words, right? It's the idea, and we have to remember that in many of these cultures, women are being groomed. You are told from you're very young, if you don't know how to cook, no man is going to want you. If you don't know how to clean a house, right? Am I right or wrong?
Right.
They're groomed from very early on to believe that their only purpose in life is to please a man. That's a problem right there, right?
On all levels.
That's
not just sexually, on all levels.
On all levels. That is a deeper cultural problem. Now, we may not necessarily see that here in America, but we see other things. The calling the woman goes beyond just the language. You're treating her like trash.
Exactly.
Right? You treat her like trash. You believe that she's worth nothing, that you can do whatever to her and it's okay. So it's all encompassing when we talk about this whole idea of incivility. Fiona said something here. I want to go back a little bit to that idea. She said, although we have men being abused too, I believe men are mostly abusers because men sit hardly sit with men. Let them know how they treat their women is wrong. For the most part, men are silent, even when they know their brother is wrong. They would not have that conversation. And why I wanted to screen that point, because oftentimes incivility in men are complicit of that silence.
Yeah.
And that's what was clearly depicted in that scene between Ocasio and the next gen, the man. I don't call his name.
Yes.
I like Glenda's comment.
The other one did not say a word, right?
Yeah.
It was basically, he's my bro.
Yep.
I'm not going to say anything. Now, if we flip that around, my question is, men can do that, but why is it that women don't stand up with other women when they're right? But that's just a separate thing that I want us to think about.
You know why? This is one thing that I was, running through my mind right now when you were speaking, is the fact that as women, we are in competition with each other consistently. And I'm not talking about like open competition. Not only the fact that, the media portrays that, us as needing to be a certain way. Not only that, look, those of us who are, in relationships as, as life partners, as wives or as mothers, we're always like, we want to be, considered like the best wife, the best mother, the best this. I mean, we die in the process of trying to prove something to people. So because we have this need to feel accepted. And
we've been taught, we've been conditioned.
We've been taught that if you don't do this, the other day.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems that my children have had with me, their biggest complaint has always been that I don't sit with them like their father does to watch a show, to see something, on TV with them. That yes. And the other day I was sitting with them because I'm learning, right? Yeah, I'm learning from my biggest teachers, which are my children. I sat there and then I needed something and I said, hey, do you mind going and get something for me, to one of my sons? And he's all like, he said something to me like, why do I have to go or something? But, in a very, like playful way. And I played back with him and I said, yeah, you know why? Because I earned it. I carried you 9 months and my body, was almost torn apart having you. So go get that thing for me, So I'm like, and he got up and, because you know what, we need to realize that, we're part of this process of, building society. And my goodness, just the fact that we are part of this, we're building society, that should be enough for people to, to be putting down, clothes and having us walk, in a red carpet because
that's a strong point. You're building society. Strong.
Chanda.
Tricia said this. Tricia said this in one of our Tricia said this in one of our shows before. I love saying it now, and it was when you don't know better, it's hard for you to do better. And I think that for a lot of the women in our families and prior generations, they had no knowledge because it was so ingrained and they were so conditioned to believe that. And then when you look at the time, they did not have the right to own or gain anything of their own. So they were totally dependent on women, right? And so this is where it still comes from. They think that it's good to teach your daughters that you have to depend on them because the ability for you to do it is not. But to tie that incivility of men into it in terms of we won't name those two senators who totally disrespected our sister Alexandra Ocasio Cortez. We will not give them names. But the idea that they protected this patriarchy, they protected each other. And this is what some of our fathers, our brothers, our uncles continue to do, because then it will peel back their layers of what they have allowed to go on and that they were a part of. And, to do so would show probably signs of weakness. But since a lot have not been to the table, we don't know. I can't speak definitely, but to see that you allow it and it continues to go from times of antiquity, here we still are. And so if you're in a position of power, and especially in religious institutions where you're supposed to be righting wrongs and allowing justice to prevail, then humanity should exist and that you call it by its name. But unfortunately, it just doesn't happen.
But you know what's important there to say too? And I want to say it because I don't want it to seem that this is a problem of certain cultures. So this isn't just the tortilla.
No.
You know?
Oh, absolutely.
One thing that I learned with this is that this whole machismo myth that it only happens in Latin cultures is not true.
Absolutely not.
It manifests itself differently in every culture, but it exists
absolutely
everywhere. And that attitude is, you are here for my service.
Right.
Whichever way you look at it.
Right. You are here for my service, or if you're here, you don't have a right to a voice, because that's the point. Sexism is actually part of that whole culture of male incivility, right? Because I'm a sexist, I have a right to call you out of your name, yell at you, scream at you, put you down. Yeah, I may not be asking you to stand there with the tortillas, but it's just as bad if you're doing that. So that segues us into this whole idea we wanted to discuss here, patriarchy and religion. And this is a hot button, right? But one that we need to go to because it is important. And we want to say here that when we're talking about religion, we're talking about all religions. We're not talking about any religion in general. Every single religion that I know of struggles with this. Every single one. I don't know yet of one who does not struggle with this. I mean, I'm talking about the major religions, the 4 that are manifested there. So patriarchy in religion, right? And oftentimes what we find is that many people who don't believe in organized religion will say to you, you guys are like that because the Bible is that way. And I want to throw out here that I don't necessarily believe that the Bible is that way. I want to say that the way we interpret the Bible, right, creates the sexism and the patriarchy, because they were living in a patriarchal society. I don't think God's expectation is that the same thing applies to us, but we have not been able to remove those patriarchal lenses and to look within the reality of where we are today. So let's talk a little bit about
I think one of the biggest problems is that a lot of people don't see the Bible, in its historical context, and just look. And the Bible is not a book; it's a variety. It's just books that were put together for And I'm not going to go into the historical part of it, but this is like you have a compilation of stories from different cultures, and here we are in modern, in the modern era, thinking that everything that's in there is literal, and we have to abide by the periods and everything that's in there. And in my vision of what I have studied is an understanding that there are thousands of years between the culture that I live in. It's a completely different culture, removed in time period. And I cannot, if I am taking what I read in the Bible as literal, word for word, every single thing I see in there, especially speaking of people who are like fundamentalists, then, I'm really missing the target of the objective that book has, or that compilation of books have. It is not intended for people to take it, in that literal word for word context in our modern society. And I see that is one of the biggest issues that we continue to see develop it, with the misogyny, the sexism that we're experiencing today. That's just my opinion, and I believe that is what's happening. But I consistently bring to mind in my personal experience something that Gandhi said about the Christian faith, because we're talking about different faiths right here. Right. And I don't want to criticize any, but one of the things that Gandhi said was, I like, like I like Jesus. I don't like his followers. I'm paraphrasing, right? And, the fact is that, those of us who might identify as Jesus followers, well, we're not doing half of the thing, we don't even do like, a percentage of what he preached, and so I think that there's such a disconnect with what we think we stand for and what we do. And so I think that that's the biggest issue that we have, because I mean, how is it that, a community of faith, like Christianity, which is supposedly upholding the value of humanity, I mean, they're like number one perpetrators of dehumanizing women, and other humans, period. I mean, if we go there. And so I think that that's like one of the biggest issues that it's a controversy. It's totally, like how you say you stand for this, but you do this. How is that? How does that connect? And
how does that connect? And I wonder oftentimes that those of us who say we're Christians, the God that we serve seems to be such a very limited and often bigoted God, right? That he's not a God that is compassionate, that he's not a God that believes in equality, and that he's not a God that can look at the poor and the hungry and the oppressed and want to rescue them, that he's a God that is separate from this, that he's just up in heaven and we are just commanded to just serve him, but he's not interested in the things that impact and hurt us. I question that type of God. Like, what kind of God are you serving?
This is such a tricky subject. It's such a tricky subject, and that's why we've been so careful in how we approach it, and as the Pink Room. And this is why we've had so many preliminary conversations trying to, how do we get here? It's a tricky subject because it's very personal. Your faith is something that's very personal. And some people may feel that we are, by things we say, trying to break down the pillars of how they were raised, how they grew up, the belief they have in the Holy Book, what their vision is about God, what they believe, what their beliefs are in regards to salvation and heaven and hell and whatever that manifests like in the different religions. But I think that coming from in the Christianity, I am a Christian. And when I have struggled through my life to try to understand things in the Bible that are hard for me to fit into that idea of a loving, compassionate God that created everybody, and that created women and men, and that gave them both the authority to rule over the rest of the created world, and what that ruling meant, which didn't mean subject, kill, make suffer, and give pain, but feed, nurture, support, and help grow. So starting from that, then what I have done is seeing what Jesus did. So my lens is, how did Jesus act with women?
He's a feminist. He's a feminist.
That's how I've come to terms with all of this, because even the stories in the Bible I cannot speak about other faiths, so I'm speaking from my tradition, are filled of stories of sinful people. There's not a single one in there that was perfect, not one.
Right.
So taking those stories as models of what is correct doesn't jive, because they weren't perfect.
No, actually, we do it the wrong way, Teresa.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, we should not be taking them as models of correctness, but as humans like us.
But that's exactly what I mean.
Right.
We will take a verse out of context.
Right.
And build a whole discipline around it, when it was never meant that way.
Exactly.
But that's what we use to then build how we want to act, and the rules we want to make, right? So what I do is I see how he lived, how he acted. When we see that whenever a woman approached Jesus, He never left her without a response to her need.
Right.
Never.
Right.
He always
and
uplifted.
blessing her.
Right.
Always uplifted. Even if he had conversations to show others what they look like, he never left it there. Every time he said, look at the woman that gave the last 2 cents she had. She is the example, not the rich man who's putting on his riches.
Right.
When the adulteress was brought, he didn't say, yeah, she did wrong. He didn't even say, where's the man? Because you can't commit adultery by yourself. He said, who of you hasn't sinned?
Right.
You know? Right. So in this whole idea of what happens in religion, what makes me sad is that because of how organized religion has interpreted and wanted to rule women, what it has done with women and what it's doing to the generation that's coming up now is disenfranchised and disconnected to a point where they say, I don't want anything to do with this. Right. Because if this is what you believe and this is wrong, I don't want anything to do with this. And we end up doing what we shouldn't do. We, instead of inviting, loving and embracing, we end up rejecting and pushing away. That makes no sense.
Right. But you know a very important thing, Teresa, that you're saying here is that you are saying that you have taken the decision to revisit the way that God has been presented to you. And I want to appeal to the women who are on this call, whether you're Christian, you're Jewish, you're Muslim. I want to invite you to revisit your God. Revisit him and look at him from a personal point of view. Because the other mistake that we have made in organized religion is that because of patriarchal and supremacist beliefs, only men speak to us.
No.
Right?
No.
And usually it is from a male perspective and interpret. And even the man who is the most best intentioned, well-intentioned man, preacher, pastor, he still has his worldview. He doesn't have your worldview. And we're not knocking that. You know, they do the best they can, many of them, and they try to elevate. You have those who don't even try to elevate at all because, you know, basically God speaks to them only. But as a woman, you need to revisit that God for yourself. You need to read for yourself. You need to have that personal relationship for yourself. It cannot be your husband's. It cannot be your father's. It cannot be your mother's. It definitely cannot be your preacher's. It has to be, or your rabbi, or it has to be your personal. And guarantee that when you have that personal link, you are going to see a full different vision of yourself from what has been said to you in organized religion. And it's the truth.
Yes.
It's the truth. You're going to find that you are falling in love with a compassionate, understanding that was God that was not presented to you. It was presented a fire and brimstone, and it's basically a male narrative. You are going to see that it's very different. So our appeal to you is that you need to find that for yourself, within your worldview and within your own mindset and your structure. You cannot follow religion based on what has been said, because that model fails women, and that's
that's the evidence we have.
Norca, here's my question. Here's a question: Is religion something that should be liberating?
You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
The Bible says it.
So I leave that with that.
For Christians, I don't know what the Torah, I don't know, but for Christians, the Bible says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Yeah. So anything that is oppressive, and a lot of religions they're oppressive, that is not of God. I'm sorry. It's not.
And you don't...
Right.
You're making the exact point.
But it's not.
I'm
Sorry,
going
I know
to. Yeah.
I may be a little delayed. That's why I asked that question. I'm sorry, I'm a little delayed. That's why I asked that question, because if you find yourself sitting in a religion that is preached only by a gender that is really not about representing all people, then you should be questioning is all about. It should be something that's liberating. And I think AOC, even Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, also spoke on religion, where it's patriarchal in many instances. It becomes it's using positions of power politically throughout the world. And it just goes on to look at even how this guy who gave a speech about what he said to her, he had the nerve to talk about how much he loves his God. What did your God have to do with the way you spoke?
Absolutely.
Out of what your God would want. How could you use that in the same sentence? And so we do have to look at, not to emasculate any male that is out there sharing the gospel, be it whatever your religious belief is, but to look at it from a sense where it represents all human beings, no gender in here, because it is about humanity living together. And primarily, this is why, in my opinion, we're having so many challenges and struggles, because we're doing everything totally opposite, and as a Christian, against the will of God. This is not about God's love, and that's why we keep battling and having all of these issues, because it does opposite. And then when you have misogynistic, sexist, patriotic, protective men who continue to
supremacist
speak and say, "Thus saith the Lord," then, and white supremacists, then I mean, we know who that gives credit to. So,
but connecting back to something else we said before, I've sat in meetings where the women in the meeting are the ones shutting women down.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
The women in the meeting are the ones shutting women down.
Yep.
And I guess what if there's one
we empower patriarchy.
We do.
We allow it. That is our problem.
If there was one thing that I would want to be remembered for in this section of our conversation, it is this: go experience God for yourself.
That's right.
Go do it for yourself. Go take your book. In our case, it's the Bible, and read it. And read it as a story. Read it and look at all the things that are in that book. God talks about domestic violence in that book. He says, leave. He says, leave. And he shows what happens when you come back. You get hacked to death and your pieces get sent all over the country.
Right.
That happened. So take it and read it and ask God to open your mind and speak to you. Don't let anybody else be your translator. God doesn't need interpreters, and we are not his grandchildren. Do it on your own. Experience this, and you will feel the love of God for you manifested in how he treated women. Don't take what other people are saying.
Right.
Do it for yourself.
Can I say something?
Sure,
really quick? I think that one of the biggest problems that humanity has is that we have been indoctrinated to think that we cannot experience God without organized religion. And that is why we are so shackled. I know that there's many religious institutions out there that are doing amazing things. I'm not knocking it, okay? And I just want to say, because I don't want people to think that I'm bashing organized religion. I think that there is some merit to it. However, because it has really, really done a number on women throughout history, it's coming. I think that right now, especially, I'm so thankful for millennials and Gen Z, because the right time of reckoning is here for organized religion. If they don't get with it, if they don't start standing by what they are preaching, then what's going to happen is that they are going to be empty, buildings, period.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what's happening.
Teresa, it's happening already.
Yeah, that's right. It's happening.
already.
But what I want to just make an emphasis on is the fact that, as organized religion, this whole system is what people have been told. This is the way. Like, you have to join this organization. You have to join this church. You have to join this temple. You have to join this mosque. You have to go here. You have to go there to find God. And what Tricia said is exactly what you do not find God,
in a building.
You do not find God. You're gonna find Him when you want to find Him. When
you look for Him.
And that He said it.
Yes.
When you take the concerted, you've taken the effort to look for Him and not just following behind what people have told you for generations in and generation out.
Critical thinking. Critical thinking.
You need to start doing that. Sorry, Shonda, you were saying.
And you accept that when you go searching for God, and you accept that God has never removed God's presence from you, then you will know. And I think also to remember, as Teresa said, that it is really you taking any of these religious doctrines and looking at the time in which they were written. That's key. And in a lot of religious institutions, we're not taught that. We try to compare it and use it literally from what it meant then for what it meant now. And the most consistent thing that we all know is change.
And we need to look at what is principle and what is storytelling. What was culture? We don't seem to be able to separate that, right?
And not only that,
story of culture and what is principle.
We pick and choose. We pick and choose.
Right. So
and we will say this is valid, but this is not.
Right.
Because it serves our goals, right? And that's just the way it is. It serves our goals. And
the patriarchy.
The patriarchy. Control. Okay. Control, power, money. Control, power, money.
So that takes us to our final topic for the day, which is internalized patriarchy.
Thank you, Norca, for moving us along.
I know we've talked about this idea that we have internalized patriarchy. I know that I have, right? We have to be realistic about the fact that we have been brought up in cultures. We have been part of organized religion. We have been in workplaces. We are in societies where they're highly patriarchal. And we have grown up to normalize a lot of the patriarchy, right? So the question is, this internalized patriarchy, right? How has it hurt us? What has it done to? Yes, because I want us to look at that. What has internalized patriarchy done to us? Because when we talk about organized religion and we talk about the fact that there's a lot of interpreting of the Bible through patriarchal lenses, we have swallowed a lot of this whole. We swallowed it, right? We were brought up and we swallowed it. So what have been the results of that internalized patriarchy?
You know what I believe the most
affected us. I want us to go into the consequences of this internalization.
You know what I believe the most dangerous one is, Norca? The most dangerous one is that we have absconded our responsibility to know God for ourselves.
Yes.
For me, that is the most important one.
Yes.
Theology is the knowledge of God, and there is nowhere in the Bible where God says only you can know me, but you can't for any reason.
Right.
And what has happened is that we believe that only people who know Hebrew and Greek
that's right Can
are
know God.
able to translate what God was supposed to be saying.
Yes, ma'am.
And then it's just easier to go sit once a week, listen to what other people say.
Ooh, comfortable.
And yes, and we have just yielded that responsibility
Yep.
up on our own.
Yes, we have.
Studying, not reading, studying and following what God is saying because we've studied. It's just, and I'm going to stretch it a little bit and forgive me. Many times in the home, please don't throw stones. But if you do, that's fine.
Go there. Go
Many
there.
times in the home, as women, it is easier to let him rule and take care of stuff. It's easier. I don't have to face the
One
world.
less thing I have to take care of. One less thing I have to do.
I don't have to face the world. I don't have to worry about bills. I don't have to make decisions. I just let him take care of it. And then we are willing to abscond our responsibility as adults.
Yes.
And let someone else deal with it. And then that is where I believe that's what hurts us the most, is that we have let go of being women, of being adults, of being whole and strong and decision makers and we warriors, because we just say, okay, someone else is supposed to do it for me. I'm not strong enough. I'm not strong enough.
Tricia, I'm gonna push one more title on us, and we are knowledge seekers.
Yes,
but we're so tired. Yes. I wish I could say another word, but we're so tired because we wash, we clean, we do this, we do that, like all this other stuff that we do. Then, when it comes to spending the energy that it's required to do the critical thinking that we need to do, because look, you know what?
And if you don't do those,
the fact is that women are knowledge seekers, not that men aren't. But I think we need to put this out there. Women are consistently looking to know. We want to know.
Look at
okay.
Eve. Look at Eve.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know, right? And we're knowledge seekers. We're knowledge seekers. However, we have prioritized the most important things, to look, for people who are of the Christian tradition, you might know this story, where there was a woman who was really, really busy. And then the other one was sitting down, listening to the talk. She was with the boys talking about, the things that are are going on in society. And then and then the other one who's working her, her butt off is like, hey, what's up with this one? She's just sitting down talking to everybody.
And what did you do?
He said, hey, you know what? This is where it's at. This is where it's happening. You want to come over here and get some of this, because this is where it's at. And unfortunately, we have not learned that lesson. We need to sit at the table and be in the discussion. We need to talk about these things. And you know what? I think that we bring very good questioning, rationale, and I think that the more that we are willing to put in the work, and it's not easy. Look, it's not easy. You need to dedicate time. So my friends, they're like, you're crazy. You get up in the morning, and I know you're my friends that tell me that because I get up super early in the morning and I read. I read for 2.5 to 3 hours. And you know what? Like, my kids know that if they have some deep issue that they want to have a discussion with, they know that they can come here. They know that if I don't know, that I'm going to go and find the information. And that's the type of human being that I want to be seen as. I want to be recognized for my intellect. I think, and I tell my husband, I don't know who's smarter, you or me. You for marrying me, or because me for being smart, right? Because right? Anyway, so we kid around about that. I mean, and he's super smart. Every time the kids do something really smart, he's all like, "Oh man, you guys are so smart, like your mother, right?" And he really pushes.
Scientific evidence says.
But
I know.
But you know something. I wanna jump in here with the sisters who, and listen, Teresa and Tricia, powerful stuff that you've said. But I also want to jump in for the sister who has not recognized, and maybe until she sees this recording, she's gonna be like, "Oh, what? I know, right? It's a possibility." Because I will say this to you, right? And we hope that women are having these aha moments when they listen to us, because that's the idea behind this. The idea is we challenge and we question everything, right? Because that's our right. That is our right as women, as citizens, as mothers, as just human beings. This is our right. But we do have women who have been conditioned and who have been socialized to just be, and I say this, and if there are any minister's wife, I apologize, but this is something that you probably heard me say if you're around my corners, to be nannies, the housekeeper, the nanny, the wash, the cook, right? And you stay busy between those. And they have honestly believed, because I know women who honestly believe that is their role in life. That is their purpose in life. That their purpose is to hold this man up because he has a purpose to fulfill. And her only purpose is to have his kids, wash, clean, cook, and pray for him that he does it, right? To those women, we want to ring the dong bell and wake you up to say you have greater purpose, and that's not your purpose. And one of the things I always say to women when I'm invited to speak to women, and of late I'm not invited that much, you know, like bring somebody else. And that's all right. I get it. That's all right. So, is that what happens if you grow up with this idea that your only role in life as a woman is to be a mother and a wife? What happens if you don't become a wife? Because there are women who will not become wives.
Exactly.
What happens if you do become a wife and, like myself, you do not become a mother? You need your purpose in life greater than any of these roles. I hear women say, my purpose in life is to be a mother. No, it ain't.
No. Amen.
No, it ain't. It's a role. It's a very important role, but that is not your purpose. Your purpose is beyond people. Whether people were in your life or not, you have a purpose. So we want to invite women to ring the dong bell and realize that, listen, I need to go find out what my bigger purpose is, because it's not attached to any human being. Whether that human being is there or not, I still got something I got to do, and I need to find what that is. So to those women, we say, listen, ring the dong bell. You need to find your purpose, because these people, the husband may die, the kids will get married and go away. And what was your purpose? Did you fulfill that purpose?
But let's say this. Let's say this, though. Let's say
to my powerful sisters,
we have, so it takes courage, number one. So if you are one of these sisters who up till now believe your purpose, there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. There's nothing wrong with it.
But it's not absolutely. It's your role.
Yeah.
It's a role,
Tristan. No, but that's why I'm clarifying, Norca. That's why I'm clarifying. Thank you. Someone is gonna say that you said that there's something wrong.
Haters are gonna hate.
So but that's why. But it's important for us to clarify, because that's why we're here, right? We're not saying there's nothing wrong with this. There's something wrong with it. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that you were planned, and God gave you gifts
that were not
from the moment you were conceived.
Right.
When you were a little girl, designing houses in your brain, putting colors together, building bridges with Legos, whatever it was, before you met your husband, before you became pregnant, before you were someone's girlfriend, God has something for you to do that you were supposed to do. That's purpose.
And if you don't become someone's wife, and
you
don't have children, that purpose
that still remains. That's purpose. So we want to clarify that. However,
that's right.
We're not saying that if you are someone who up to today thought that your purpose was that you are suddenly going to wake up tomorrow and say, this is no longer my purpose because I was in the pink room last night and they let me know that I no longer have to.
No,
so
do not use us as part
no,
of the.
that is why I'm saying it. That's why I'm saying it.
No, lady.
So,
no.
What I'm saying is
no, and I think that it should be. Yeah, thank you, Tricia. It's so important that we clarify that, because I think that there are such beautiful things. I love cooking for my family when I get the chance, because right now with quarantine, I've got people sharing the responsibility, but I enjoy that. It's something that is beautiful, where I can sit down and see them enjoy what I have made for them. So but that doesn't mean that is the only thing that is that connects me to them. That's not the only thing that will connect me to them, right? And the thing is that as women, we think that what connects us to our spouse, if we have one, or to our children, if we have one, or to society at large, if because we're all part of society, no matter what what status you have. But we think that it is what we do, that we, that's what connects us, that's what gives us a standing, that's what gives us value. And that is where we go wrong. We have to, I think the point that we're trying to make here is, look, you are valuable. Because you're human. Because you exist.
Yes.
Period.
And so my sisters, that's it. Teresa said, for anyone to tell us we are valuable. But before we say that, Tricia, thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm sure the internalized patriarchy police will come looking for us. So be careful. But in the meantime,
wait, there's a knock at the door. Hold on.
In the meantime, ladies, for me, internalized patriarchy looked like serving, right? Being the ones who were always in the background serving. All along, we were the ones, and Tricia, I think you and I were talking about that while we're so tired, because we hold up half the world, especially women of color. But it's always been the role where people think we're serving. We're actually the ones who are leading these movements, have always led the movements, and it is also in religious institutions. We are in, and I'm not going to even call them backgrounds anymore. We're actually in the real forefront that people see, right? It's hidden in plain sight, and they refuse to acknowledge. We are the ones. Yes, we love our men. We thank them, and we're glad that God made men and women, right? But we know that we have this unique power that has been instilled in us. And for some of us, because of internalized patriarchy, we're almost allowing that internal flame to burn out. And cannot. We have to recognize that our value is there and utilize it at the fullest.
Hey guys, please allow me to do this right now. My 22-year-old daughter is watching right now, Sharon Romero, and I just want to shout out to her, because I have learned. Yes, I have learned so much from this young woman. Like she was talking to me, this weekend. She's been kind of like really centering me and focusing on a lot of the, the misconceptions that I have about, about being a young woman in society right now. And so I'm just like blown away by a lot of the things that I still, had internalized, that I still had, that I was holding on to. So I just want to say, because I see that she's connected. Sharon, thank you. And don't stop using your voice. I'm really proud of you.
So this is one, and I'm glad Teresa brought that up, because this is one of the consequences of internalized patriarchy. We're exhausted. We have lost sight of what our real purpose is.
Lost our joy.
We have lost our joy, our voice, Teresa. We have many women who are voiceless. They don't have a voice. They don't have a mind. We have lost the capacity to realize that we can search for knowledge and for truth ourselves.
We have
to. Yes. We can have those debates. We can have those discussions. We can question, we can ask.
Yes.
You know, there's no such thing as because I'm a woman, then, you know, I can't ask. I don't know. I sit on the periphery, and whatever those in the center say, well, then that is what will be done. But this whole idea of patriarchy and that internalization, we have done more harm to ourselves.
Yes.
Because we have been conditioned. I don't want to say blame the victim, but we have been conditioned. And I want to say, listen, even though I don't have to say, but I still want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that as women, we have been brought up to believe that we are not worthy of these things. But what we're trying to say to you today is that you're infinitely worthy. And that today, going forward, you need to put yourself on a path for the pursuit of knowledge, for the pursuit of purpose, for being your full self. And yes, within those very important roles, know that they need to share the role. It needs to be balanced. This exhaustion till you fall in your bed when you're cooking, cleaning, and you have grown kids with 2 hands and a husband with 2 hands, they need to help. They can help. Right? They can help. They can make your sandwiches. They can cook their food. They can do the laundry. We need to disabuse ourselves from this idea that because we're the woman, we need to do everything. Listen, we're only 2, but my husband cooks. I cook. We share. Sometimes I can't get to the stove quick enough. He gets there. We share. What's the problem? Doesn't make him less of a man, and it doesn't make me less of a woman.
Or more.
Or more. We need
that there. Tricia, she hit it. She hit it.
Yeah, that's
true. It's this constant competition with ourselves to prove
that
we are better.
And with other women.
And like, I do this, I do that.
Exactly. We sit down and we say, oh, I did this today and I did that, this long list of things. Listen.
Not only that, and I'm going to say this, and it's happened to me, and that's why I can say it. When you are the one that does not accept the traditional role, then it will be other women who will come to you and say, aren't you afraid you're going to lose your husband?
Woo!
Why aren't you? He's such a good father. You should see.
Wow.
Aren't you afraid that you're not doing what God intended you to do as a mother?
Wow.
Other women.
Yep.
So we don't help each other in that way. And
right.
Hey, raise your hand if somebody has made you feel that way.
Well, like, no, they can't make me feel that way.
No. But they've tried.
They've
gone there. They've gone there. Yes, that's right.
But no. Right. And that is something that I learned from my mother. She used to close the door. What do I mean by that? When she was doing her doctoral studies, she could either clean the house and not get her GPA or study.
Right.
And what she would do is close the doors. She said, if I don't see it, I can study. I learned that when I was 12.
Right.
Watching her.
Right. You know something, Tricia, that your mother was teaching you here, and we need to disabuse ourselves of this notion that we're super women and we can do everything. We cannot.
Yes. No, I learned that. If I turned this computer around and you saw my room, you'd know I learned that.
Right. We cannot. And we need to disabuse ourselves.
You're in good company.
Right. Of perfection. Like I have to be the perfect cook, the perfect this, and still have a full career doing all of these great things. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
You're human. So things will have to give, and you need the help of those people you sleep with under the roof. They're going to help you out to make this happen. So your mother taught you a very important lesson.
Yes.
If you are in school as a woman, you're going to have to close that door if you want to do well.
Yep.
If you are a professional woman and there are projects to meet and deadlines and reports, there are times where you are at that computer, other people in the home have to cook, they have to clean, they have to do the other stuff. So we cannot do it all. We're not super women. I don't accept that. I don't accept the strong woman or the super woman. I ain't none of them. I'm a human being trying to make it. So we need to disabuse ourselves of these notions. So we're going to go to our final takeaways, unless each one of you wants to say something before we leave. If there was take away from this discussion today. Aha moment that you had. And we're going to ask also those who are listening to us, if there's a takeaway, an aha moment that you had in what we discussed today, share it with us so that we can screen it as each one of us share with you our takeaway for today. And then we go into our final checklist for the night.
I'll go for it. I'll get started so we can get it. Go ahead. As I mentioned Sharon because today she actually pointed out something to me, and I was like, no. That she was talking about how I treated, my daughters versus my sons, right? And just her pointing it out to me, and us speaking about internalized patriarchy, I realized that there's still so much that I could do to make my children's, understanding of their value so much more clearer. And so, for me, what I'm taking with me is just, I think a profound focus on being clear with my children on their value as human beings, and not, I give you permission to go where you need to go because it's okay because you're a boy. And, I'm worried about you because you're a girl, which was like part of the discussion that we had. And, and to me, this is like powerful stuff. Yeah. Powerful. And so I'm taking that. Yeah. I'm taking that. And I'm really happy that I was able to be part of this, all of the discussions, but this one in particular, because I think it just really hit home with my kids in real time, because we talked about that today. So yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you, Theresa.
I would like to share my takeaway. And I like a little humor sometimes in the seriousness. So I'm going to try and use my John Lewis voice. Well, my takeaway for today. Okay, it's not working. But
it's the lag in your internet.
Women, we just have to we just have to continue to get into good trouble.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
So mine, as we were talking, it dawned on me how AOC's courage opened up the opportunity to have a conversation that would seemingly have nothing to do with being called a flipping bee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But because she decided she would stand up for herself, for the little girls she serves, for her parents and how she was raised, for her position as a leader in this country, and would not let this go by for a quiet life. It has opened up so many different conversations.
Yes.
And just tonight, we have covered religion, we have covered how we were raised, we have covered culture, we have covered language, so many things, just because one person decided that she was going to be intentional about living out her purpose and what she was brought here to do.
Yes.
And we all can do that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Agree.
Absolutely. I want to screen Arlene's comment. And in screening Arlene's comment, I just want to say this, that women, especially when you get to a certain rank and you reach a certain levels, we face, you always have someone who would like to challenge your being there. I've faced
it all the time.
You have to be confident in who you are and why you're there. But most importantly, you need to remember that there are women looking on. That there are women coming behind, and that sometimes you are called to be the one to break the door down.
Yes.
So you're sitting complicit and silent, knowing that things are wrong, is not helpful. No. You're going to have to kick the door, because you're kicking, maybe not for you, but somebody's coming behind that needs that door kicked open. So
that's right.
I think that Alexandria did what was needed to be done for a long time, because then you heard all these women talking about, it happened to me.
Yes.
I think the Speaker of the House said that more than 20 times she had been told, call this, and she had to remind people, you have a mother, do you have a sister? This is regular. Don't think that it only happens in the streets. It does not. I could tell you stories. And, you know, you got to be strong and you got to be firm and you got to let them know you don't mess with me again, because the next time you mess with me, listen, I'll just say this to you. I've faced a situation where that person was forced to retire after I was done.
Yep.
You got
That's
to
right.
be strong. And sometimes
Yes.
it doesn't mean you going in there and making a bluster, because maybe we don't have a podium the way Alexandria had. I'm glad she did, because she spoke for many women. The
Yes.
power of your pen and those little fingers. Type out a letter.
Yes.
A letter. Make sure you write it down, document it. Do not just sit there and say, oh my goodness, this happened to me and that's it. There's
A quiet life
in your words. Write it down. So Arlene says here that she learned that we need to continue to uplift and be united with our fellow sister. Do not allow any form of disrespect. Absolutely, Arlene. Reclaim my self-respect. Continue to seek understanding of God for myself. Beautiful, beautiful, Arlene.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Laura Elena wrote this in Spanish. She said that you have strengthened me listening to you today. It came to my mind many women who are suffering and have lost their life. So thank you so much, Laura Elena. Damari said, respect, stand up for what is right. And listen, sister, let me tell you something. If you find yourself in a position where you feel, my goodness, I don't know what to do, come for one of us to ask you to help you write that letter. We'll help you.
That's right.
We will help you. Sometimes it's not what you say, but you have to be strategic.
How?
We cannot any longer sit and let these things go by.
We read each other's letters, so we're not offering something that we haven't done.
Exactly. We have done it.
Yes.
We have done it. We've read each other's letters and we help each other out. So that we need to be for each other, but we need to stand up. What does it say about our land of free, home of the brave society, that one woman had the courage to call it an insensitive, sexist war, and that it had to be courageous instead of an everyday respect and common sense? And Brenda, I want to add to that Ocasio Cortez did not only stand for the land of the free, she stood for every woman. Read my article. I hope to post it there. She stood for every woman around the world. This is something that is pervasive, and it's time. It's time.
Yes.
Glenda said, stand up for yourself. For other women, silent is consent. Agreed. Silent is consent. And we need to. So we're going to go to our takeaways. Oh, before we go to our takeaways, I almost forgot that we want to make two quick announcements to you. And these announcements have to do with next week. So we're going to on screen, and I'm going to show you these announcements. Next week, we're talking about racism in the age of now. And we're going to have two young women who are going to come and share with us their perspectives as young women, 20s, 30s, sharing how they view and how they handle racism in school, in their workplaces, where they are. So we have Ashley Chavez and Leila Victorine, who will be with us next week. We want to make sure that you show up next week. Let's support our young women and let's hear what they have to say. And then we have a Speaking Institute. They're going to have a virtual camp, Voice Discovery. We're also going to post this on our Facebook page. This is for young women ages 10 to 15, 16 and older. If you have a daughter, if you have a niece who you believe is struggling with finding her voice, or who has a voice and you want to develop that voice, this will be a great opportunity to join the Speaking Institute. I know the founder of the Speaking Institute. She's a powerful young woman, and she would be able to help your daughter, your niece, to find her voice. She has a virtual camp coming up for that. This is the moment. So I'm inviting you, and sons. If you have sons also, we're inviting you to sign up for the Voice Discovery by the Speaking Institute as they introduce their virtual camp. And we're going to bring back on the ladies as we talk a little bit about our final checklist. We're going to show you today what we came up. Remember, we always give you a takeaway. And takeaways are important for us because takeaways center us in the work. And that's the reason why we do the takeaways, because we want you to be centered in not only coming and having the discussion and learning from each other, because we learn from you just as much as you learn from us, but we also want you to be able to go away with actionable items of things that you can do and incorporate in your life. So our takeaways for this week, we're going to start with Theresa.
Yes. I can't stress this enough. Don't let other people's opinions become yours. You need to use the critical thinking skills that you have developed to make your own opinions. So take time to research. Look, now more than ever, we have the opportunity to find information, compare it, compare different sources of information. Do not allow yourself to go just with, this time it's so appropriate, go with the flow. You do need to stop and question, first of all, where's this information coming from? And second, do you agree with what's being said? And if so, where's the evidence? Where are the statistics? Where is the information that's going to give you the satisfaction to your questions? So take the time to do that. We need to now more than ever fight misinformation. So my invitation is for you to think for yourself, think critically.
So my suggestion, my recommendation is to treat yourself like you would another young woman or girl with grace. One thing AOC said is that she did not think about doing this when it was about her honor. She started thinking about speaking up when she thought about others, about other little girls, about other young women. And then she said, why not me? So if you're having difficulty thinking about how you can stand up for yourself, pretend that you are defending someone else, and then apply that same level of grace to yourself, that level of protection. Defend yourself, because it might be easier to do it that way. Some of us aren't used to defending ourselves or standing up for ourselves. But if we're thinking about others, then we can do it. So pretend it's somebody else, but do it for you.
And my to-do list, my to-do on the to-do list, I've been engaging with conversation with some other women for the last few weeks. And what I realized was really important and what was also shared is bringing women of color into our spaces, our places, and discussions. And just to relate to AOC, she mentioned, she reached out to the other women in Washington to come out and support. And so we must also bring those discussions about the roles and positions women of color have, not only in our workplaces, but in our religious institutions. And even in our religious institutions, women have not stopped trying to speak up in reference to gender equality. So wherever you are, bringing a discussion about women of color, your spaces, your places, in your home, because we must become visible in the forefront for what we've always done. We're part of this world, and the world needs to acknowledge it, not just use us for the powerful people that we can be.
And finally, we want to remind you that you are worthy of respect, and you're also worthy of purpose. You have a purpose. You were created to give, and you were created to receive love. Anything or anyone that would seek to diminish you goes against the purpose of your creation. Protect yourself, disengage from anyone who will try to diminish you, and affirm yourself daily, knowing that there is a greater purpose for your life and for your existence. This has been for us and continues to be for us a great labor of love. I just want to screen one final comment because this has to do with Theresa.
Yes, I saw that.
So this is from Victor Manuel Diaz Ortiz Alvarez, which is Teresa's husband. Says, el haber sido criada por una gran mujer, having been raised by a great woman, has made me a good helpmeet for my loving wife, Teresa Alvarez Diaz. Thank Mother Margarita Ortiz for her love and her prayers. And he asked God to bless For Real Women International. We receive it. We receive it, Victor.
Yes.
Thank you so very, very much. We want, I don't know, cry. Don't cry. Don't cry because
my mother-in-law is legit. She's the hero.
Oh wow,
she's like,
beautiful.
She's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
You did good, Mr. Victor.
Good. Yes, looking real good. You are an example, sir. Wonderful. We are going to at this time bid you goodbye. We want to remind you that we still have our Women's International Trek. You can go to our website. You can upload your steps. There's a particular team that looks to be ahead of the others, but there's time, ladies. Just mark those steps in and put them in.
I'm going to beat you, Patty Couillon. I'm going to beat you.
Put those steps in. And
I'm going to, after we're done here, I'm going to put all my thousands of steps in.
And we have women walking in Mexico. We have women walking in Texas, California,
Colorado,
Limón. We have women in Brooklyn. We have women in Queens. We have women walking all over this land. And hopefully we start something big and major because we're walking for those causes that we believe in, but we're also walking for our health. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next week with Racism in the Age of Now. We're going to hear from some fabulous, fresh, young voices. We cannot wait. We thank you for taking the time to be with us. You could have been watching TV again, but you decided and you could decide to stay around with us, share the video, go comment, and just if you felt that you were uplifted, make sure that other people know. Please have a good night and see you next week. Same.
And we'll see you next time in the Pink Room.
The Pink Room is a produced resource of For Real Women International, Inc., a non-profit organization with headquarters in New York and affiliates in the United States, Latin America, and the Caribbean. The views expressed here by hostesses and guests do not necessarily represent the philosophy of For Real Women International, its affiliates, members, and board of directors.